Captain Do-hyun Kim stood tall as he entered the massive hall of the Galactic Conclave for the first time. Bright lights from 3 different suns shone through the crystal ceiling. 17 different alien species watched him. He was the first human to ever step foot in this place. Do-hyun touched the small Earth flag pin on his blue uniform for luck. "Welcome, human ambassador," said Ambassador Thal. The tall, blue-skinned Viridian moved forward with 4 arms extended in greeting. "The Conclave has waited many cycles to officially welcome Earth to our galactic family." Do-hyun bowed slightly, remembering his training. "Earth is honored to join the Conclave. We hope to learn from your wisdom and share our own knowledge." That was 3 months ago. Now Do-hyun sat in a dark cell, his wrists bound by energy cuffs that glowed soft purple in the darkness. His once clean uniform was torn and dirty. His face was thin from too little food, but his eyes still held determination. "Ambassador Kim, please cooperate. These tests are for the good of all species," said the voice from the speaker. It belonged to Chief Scientist Maris, another Viridian who had once greeted him with false smiles. "Kidnapping an ambassador is against your own conclave laws," Do-hyun said calmly. "Earth will not stand for this treatment." A small laugh came through the speaker. "Earth does not even know where you are, human. As far as they know, you have gone on a cultural exchange mission to the outer systems." Do-hyun closed his eyes. During his capture, he had managed to activate his neural implant and send a short emergency message. He did not know if it had reached Earth. He did not know if anyone was looking for him, but he had to believe. The door to his cell slid open and 2 guards entered. They were Crawl, a species with tough rock-like skin and 6 eyes that blinked in different patterns. They pulled him to his feet. "Today's tests will measure your body's reaction to different atmospheres," Maris's voice said as they dragged him down a long hallway. "Fascinating how humans can adapt to various conditions. Most species can only survive in very specific environments." Do-hyun did not reply. He saved his energy. He watched. He remembered. Every hallway, every door, every guard post. Someday this information would help him escape. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Jiwoo Park stared at the message on her screen for the 100th time. Betrayal, captive, not what they seem. The message had come through 3 weeks ago, sent from Do-hyun's neural implant. The signal was weak, corrupted, but unmistakable. It was his personal code, one only Jiwoo would recognize. "They're still saying he left voluntarily," said Commander Han, the older officer standing behind her desk. "The Conclave ambassador insists Do-hyun is on a cultural tour, and communications are limited in that region." Jiwoo stood up, her small frame tight with anger. "Sir, I served with Captain Kim for 7 years. He would never go dark like this. Not without proper protocols." "I agree," said Han with a sigh. "But the Council is hesitant to accuse the Conclave without more proof. They don't want to damage our new alliance." "Then let me get proof." Jiwoo pointed to the star map on her wall. "Give me a ship. A small team. I'll find him." Commander Han looked at her for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. "The ESS Vengeance is nearly complete. It's our first true interstellar warship, meant for extended missions." He lowered his voice. "Officially, you'll be on a goodwill tour of Conclave worlds. Unofficially, I'll bring him home." Jiwoo finished. Within days, Jiwoo had assembled her team. They gathered in the secure briefing room at Luna Base. Dr. Tae-ho Sung was first to arrive. The xenobiologist had studied alien life forms since first contact. "If they're holding him somewhere," he said quietly, "I can help identify what world based on environmental readings." Commander Soo-min Lee was next, her military posture perfect as always. "Tactical operations is my specialty. If we need to fight our way in, or out, I'm your best option." Engineer Junho Kang brought up holographic displays of weapons. "I've been working on tech that can bypass most Conclave security systems," he said with a small smile. "They think we're decades behind them. They're wrong." Last came Lieutenant Ha-un Yoon, who spoke 14 Earth languages and had already mastered 6 alien ones. "I can interpret anything we find and help us blend in during planet visits." Jiwoo looked at them all. "This mission is volunteer only. We don't know what we'll find out there. The Conclave has 17 member species spread across 200 worlds. Finding one man won't be easy." "He would do the same for any of us," said Soo-min simply. The others nodded in agreement. 2 days later, the ESS Vengeance left Earth orbit. The sleek black ship was built for speed and stealth. with weapons hidden beneath its smooth hull. Officially, it carried trade goods and cultural items. Unofficially, it held a full complement of Earth's newest weapons and a crew determined to find their missing ambassador. Jiwoo stood on the bridge as the ship accelerated to faster-than-light speed. The stars stretched into lines of light around them. "First stop is the Viridian homeworld," she said. Their ambassador, Thal, was the last person seen with Do-hyun before he disappeared. "Travel time is 6 weeks," reported Junho from his station. "I'll run continuous scans for any trace of human biosignatures." As the ship pushed deeper into space, Jiwoo stared at the view screen. "Hold on, Do-hyun," she whispered. "We're coming." In his cell, Do-hyun made another small mark on the wall with a piece of metal he had broken off from his food tray. By his count, he had been captive for 93 days. The tests were getting worse. Yesterday, they had exposed him to radiation levels that would kill most conclave species. He had been sick for hours, but his body recovered. This seemed to both impress and frighten his captors. "Your kind heals so quickly," Maris had said, watching him through the glass. "And you adapt to the damage. Remarkable." Today, a new face appeared at his cell. A younger Viridian female with lighter blue skin and only the beginning of the cranial ridges that marked adults of her species. "I am Lyra," she said quietly, a research assistant. She placed a tray of food inside and glanced nervously down the hall. "They should not be doing this to you." Do-hyun looked up, surprised by the sympathy in her voice. "Then help me," he said simply. Lyra's 4 hands fidgeted. "The directive believes your species is dangerous, that you will someday take over everything. We just want peaceful relations," Do-hyun said. "That's why I came as ambassador." "I know," she whispered. "I've been studying Earth transmissions. Your people are different, but not in the way they claim." She leaned closer. "Not everyone agrees with what they're doing to you." A spark of hope lit in Do-hyun's chest. "Lyra, I need to send another message to Earth. Can you help me?" The young Viridian looked afraid but nodded slightly. "I will try. Tomorrow." Then she hurried away as footsteps approached. Do-hyun ate the food slowly, saving half of it in a hidden spot under his bed. For the first time in months, he felt something beyond determination. He felt hope. The ESS Vengeance orbited Viridian Prime, a blue-green world with 3 moons. On the surface, Jiwoo and Ha-won walked through a busy alien marketplace, wearing cloaks that partially concealed their human features. They were posing as traders from a distant conclave world. "Ambassador Thal's compound is just ahead," Ha-won whispered, looking at her scanner disguised as a piece of jewelry. "Our credentials should get us inside." The Viridian security guards examined their documents carefully. The fake IDs said they were from Tellus, a small conclave world rarely visited. "Purpose of visit?" asked the guard. "Trade negotiations," said Jiwoo smoothly. "We have samples of rare minerals to discuss." After a tense moment, they were allowed inside. The compound was massive, with gardens full of strange blue plants and fountains that sprayed water upward in complex patterns. While Jiwoo spoke with a Viridian trade official, Ha-won slipped away, activating a small device that connected to the compound's communication system. She downloaded data for just 3 minutes before returning to Jiwoo's side. That night, back on the ship, they examined what she had found. "Most of it is encrypted," said Junho, "running decoding algorithms. But I found mentions of something called the Human Project and coordinates for a facility on the 3rd moon of Galen 4. "That's in a restricted sector," said Suman, checking the star charts. "No regular traffic allowed." Jiwoo stared at the coordinates. "Then that's where we go next." As they prepared to leave orbit, a small ping registered on their communication system. A heavily encrypted message, barely readable through the static. "It's the same signature as before," Taeho said excitedly. "It's from Do-hyun." The message was short. "Research facility. Galen 4, 3rd moon. The directive plans extinction." Jiwoo's hands tightened on the edge of the console. "Set course immediately," she ordered. "Maximum speed." What they didn't know was that their activities on Viridian Prime had been noticed. A small tracking device had been planted on their ship during a routine maintenance stop. As they jumped to faster-than-light travel, a signal went out to Conclave security forces. The hunt had begun, in both directions. The ESS Vengeance moved silently through space, its engines running in stealth mode. They were approaching the Galen system, home to a gas giant planet with 7 moons. According to Do-hyun's message, he was being held on the third moon. Scan complete, said Jun-ho from his station. The third moon has an artificial atmosphere. There's a large facility on the surface, heavily shielded. Ji-woo studied the holographic display. The facility looked like a fortress with high walls and multiple security rings. Life signs? Mixed, replied Tae-ho, adjusting the sensors. I detect at least 5 different species inside and… Yes, human DNA signature. Weak but present. A cheer went up among the crew. After 6 months of searching, they had finally found Do-hyun. We need a plan, said Soo-min, the tactical officer. Those defenses are too strong for a direct assault. I may have something, Ha-eun said, looking up from her console. I've been monitoring their communications. Every 3 days, they receive supply shipments from a crawl transport. One is due in 6 hours. Ji-woo's eyes lit up. Can we intercept it? Jun-ho grinned. Better. I can clone their identification codes. They'll think we're the real supply ship. Good, said Ji-woo. Soo-min, select a boarding team. We go in, find Do-hyun, and get out before they realize what's happening. As they prepared for the mission, an alarm sounded on the bridge. 3 ships just entered the system, called out the sensor operator. Conclave warships. They found us, Ji-woo said grimly. We need to move now. Soo-min, take command of the ship. Keep those warships busy. I'll lead the rescue team. Ji-woo, Tae-ho, and 2 security officers boarded a small shuttle. Jun-ho had disguised it to look like a crawl supply ship. They approached the moon facility, transmitting the cloned identification codes. Supply vessel KT-392, requesting docking permission. Ji-woo said in the crawl language that Ha-eun had taught her. There was a pause that felt like forever. Then, permission granted. Proceed to Dock 7. The shuttle landed in a large hangar bay. Ji-woo and her team wore crawl environmental suits that hid their human features. They pushed hovering carts of supplies ahead of them, weapons hidden underneath. Life support section is down the main corridor, Tae-ho whispered, looking at his scanner. The human signal is coming from sublevel 3. They moved through the facility, nodding to the occasional guard. Most of the staff were focused on monitors and equipment, paying little attention to what they assumed were routine delivery workers. In his cell, Do-hyun heard alarms begin to sound. He moved to the small window in his door, trying to see what was happening. Guards ran past, weapons ready. What's going on? He asked when Lyra appeared in the corridor. Conclave ships have detected an Earth vessel in the system, she said quickly, and there's a supply ship that just docked that's raising suspicions. Hope surged in Do-hyun's heart. Earth sent someone for me. Lyra looked nervous. The directive is moving you to a more secure location. They're coming for you now. She glanced over her shoulder. I have to help you escape. What they're planning, it's wrong. She tapped a code into the door panel. The energy field disappeared and the door slid open. Lyra handed him a small device. This will disrupt the tracking implant they put in you. Follow me. They hurried down a back corridor, alarms blaring around them. The research labs are this way, Lyra said. You need to see what they've been doing with your DNA samples. They entered a large laboratory filled with transparent containers. Inside each one floated what looked like biological material, growing in patterns Do-hyun had never seen before. What is this? He asked, horrified. Bioweapons, Lyra said sadly, designed to target human genetic markers. The evolutionary directive believes your species will eventually dominate the galaxy. These are meant to prevent that. Do-hyun stared at the containers. They're planning to kill all humans? The vote happens in the conclave next month, Lyra confirmed. They'll call it a preventive measure against an aggressive species. A noise at the door made them both turn. 4 figures in crawl environmental suits stood there, weapons raised. Do-hyun pushed Lyra behind him protectively. One of the figures lowered its weapon. Then it removed its helmet. Ji-woo? Do-hyun whispered, not believing his eyes. Lieutenant Ji-woo Park smiled, relief washing over her face. Found you, Captain. There was no time for a proper reunion. We have a shuttle in the hangar, Ji-woo said quickly. But we need to move now. The Vengeance is engaging conclave ships to buy us time. We can't just leave, Do-hyun said urgently. Look at this. He pointed to the bioweapon containers. They're planning to wipe out humanity. Tae-ho, who had removed his helmet as well, quickly scanned the lab. Collecting data now, he said, connecting a device to the main computer. We need evidence to take back to Earth. Suddenly, the facility shook with a massive impact. The battle has reached the moon, Jiwoo said. We need to go now. They ran for the hangar, Lyra leading them through back corridors to avoid security. As they rounded the final corner, they found their path blocked by a squad of Viridian guards led by Chief Scientist Maris. The human specimen is too valuable to lose, Maris said coldly. Kill the others. Before the guards could fire, Lyra stepped forward. This is wrong. You can't. An energy blast from Maris's weapon hit her in the chest. Lyra fell backward into Do-hyun's arms, her blue skin already turning gray. Go, she whispered to him. Tell everyone the truth. Rage filled Do-hyun as he held the dying Viridian. Jiwoo and her team opened fire, forcing the guards to take cover. Do-hyun gently laid Lyra down and grabbed her access card. This way, he shouted, pointing to a side door. They fought their way through to an emergency exit that led directly to the hangar. Their shuttle was still there, but more guards were arriving. Cover me! Jiwoo called as she ran for the pilot's seat. The others provided covering fire as they backed into the shuttle. Do-hyun was the last aboard. As the door closed, he saw Maris watching from across the hangar, hatred in her alien eyes. The shuttle blasted out of the hangar, immediately taking fire from defense turrets. Vengeance, we have the package, Jiwoo called over the comm. Request immediate extraction. The ESS Vengeance appeared from behind the moon, its weapons blazing as it cleared a path for the shuttle. Despite taking heavy damage, Su-min had kept the ship in the fight. Once the shuttle was safely aboard, the Vengeance jumped to faster-than-light speed, leaving the Conclave ships behind. In the medical bay, Do-hyun sat quietly as the doctor treated his injuries. Jiwoo stood nearby, unable to stop looking at her friend. He was thinner, with new scars, but alive. How did you find me? He asked finally. Your messages, Jiwoo replied. Both of them. The second one confirmed what we had already discovered about the facility. Do-hyun looked down. Lyra helped me send that. She died helping us escape. Not all of them agree with what's happening, Jiwoo said softly. That's something to remember. Taeho entered the medical bay, his face grave. I've analyzed the data from the lab, he said. The bioweapons are real. They're designed to target human DNA specifically while leaving other species unharmed. And there's more. They've been manipulating Conclave politics, pushing for authorization of a preemptive strike against Earth. We have to warn them, Do-hyun said, trying to stand. Already done, Jiwoo assured him. We sent everything through quantum communication as soon as we jumped. It can't be intercepted. What will Earth do? Do-hyun asked. Jiwoo's expression hardened. What any species would do when threatened with extinction. Prepare for war. On Earth, the United Defense Council met in emergency session. The evidence from the Galen facility was displayed on large screens around the room. Military leaders from all nations sat in shocked silence. The verification is complete, announced General Chen. These bioweapons are real, and they would be effective against our physiology. The Conclave, or at least elements within it, is planning our extinction. Then we have no choice, said Counselor Nadia. We activate Protocol Thermopylae. There were murmurs around the table. Protocol Thermopylae had been created after first contact, a contingency plan if alien civilizations proved hostile. It involved the deployment of Earth's hidden fleet, 30 advanced warships that had been constructed in secret orbital facilities, unknown to the Conclave. The fleet can be ready in 72 hours, reported Admiral Santos. The Conclave believes we have only the Vengeance. They don't know about the others. The Council President looked around the table. All in favor? Every hand rose. Then may God help us all, the President said softly, because the galaxy is about to learn why you don't threaten humanity. Across Earth, hidden facilities sprang to life. Ships that had been disguised as space stations or mining operations revealed their true nature. Crews that had trained for years in secret reported for duty. Within 3 days, Earth's fleet was assembled in deep space, beyond the reach of Conclave sensors. 30 warships, each more advanced than the Vengeance, prepared for battle. The first target, the headquarters of the Evolutionary Directive, where the bioweapons had been created. Humanity had been pushed too far, and now the galaxy would burn. 3 weeks after Do-hyun's rescue, the galaxy was at war. Earth's hidden fleet had struck with surprising force against the heart of the Evolutionary Directive. Their main research base on Galen 4's moon was now nothing but floating debris. The ESS Vengeance, repaired and resupplied, joined the fleet for the second wave of attacks. On the bridge, Do-hyun stood beside Captain Ji-woo as they approached the Viridian home system. 7 Conclave warships detected, reported the sensor officer. They're moving to intercept. Ji-woo nodded calmly. Battle Formation Alpha. Target their engines and weapon systems. Minimal casualties if possible. Do-hyun looked at her with surprise. You're trying to avoid killing them? After what they planned to do to Earth? Those are our orders, Ji-woo replied. Earth's leadership believes not all Conclave species were part of the conspiracy. We fight the ones who try to kill us, but we don't become monsters in the process. The fleet engaged the Conclave ships. Earth vessels moved with surprising speed and agility, their weapons more precise than the Conclave expected. Human battle tactics, developed over centuries of their own wars, proved effective against the more rigid Conclave formations. They didn't expect us to be so good at this, Su-min commented from her tactical station. They thought we were primitives. Within hours, the Conclave defense had collapsed. 5 of their ships were disabled, 2 had retreated, and the way to Viridian Prime was open. Instead of bombarding the planet from orbit, as the Viridians might have done, Earth forces targeted only military installations. Dropships delivered troops to secure the Conclave government buildings. On the main government plaza, Do-hyun stood with Ji-woo as Viridian officials were brought before them. Ambassador Thal was among them, his blue skin pale with fear. You were supposed to be eliminated, Thal said when he saw Do-hyun. How did one human cause all this? You held the wrong human captive, Do-hyun replied simply. And you misunderstood humanity. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to live. In the government headquarters, Earth forces discovered more evidence of the conspiracy. Not all Conclave species had supported the plan to destroy humanity. Many had been deceived, told that humans were preparing to attack the Conclave first. We need to get this information to the other Conclave worlds, Do-hyun told Ji-woo. Show them they've been manipulated. Using the Viridian communication network, they broadcast the truth, evidence of the bioweapons, records of the evolutionary directives' lies, and offers of peace to species who had not participated in the conspiracy. As Earth forces secured more Conclave systems, a pattern emerged. Most ordinary citizens and even many officials had known nothing about the planned genocide. The evolutionary directive had operated in shadows, using fear to manipulate policy. On the planet Tellus, home to the insect-like Tellarians, the local leader watched the Earth broadcast with his advisory council. Is this true? He asked his science minister. Were bioweapons being developed against the humans without our knowledge? The evidence appears genuine, the minister replied reluctantly. The directive exceeded its authority. Most of the council never voted on this. The leader's antennae twitched with anger. Contact the Earth fleet. Tell them Tellus had no part in this plot. We wish to negotiate separately. Similar scenes played out across the Conclave. Within days, 7 of the 17 member species had reached out to Earth, denouncing the evolutionary directive and offering peace. Aboard the Vengeance, Dr. Tae-ho made an important discovery. Analyzing more data from the directive's labs, he found a vulnerability in Viridian biology. Their central nervous system is highly sensitive to certain sound frequencies, he explained to the command staff. We could develop weapons that would incapacitate them without killing. Would it work on the other species that are still fighting us? Ji-woo asked. No, just the Viridians. They're the main force still resisting. Earth scientists quickly developed sonic disruptors based on Tae-ho's findings. When deployed in the next battle, they proved remarkably effective. Entire Viridian ships were disabled as their crews collapsed, unable to function but suffering no permanent harm. Word of this spread quickly through Conclave forces. Earth could have developed lethal biological weapons against the Viridians, just as the directive had planned to do to humans, but had chosen not to. Instead, they used the knowledge to create non-lethal options. This choice shocked the remaining hostile forces. It contradicted everything the directive had claimed about human nature. 3 more Conclave species sued for peace. Do-hyun found himself serving as an impromptu diplomat again, this time meeting with representatives from species who wanted to separate themselves from the conflict. Why doesn't Earth simply destroy us? Asked a Mikari delegate, his tentacles waving nervously. You clearly have the military power. Because that's not who we are, Do-hyun replied. We're defending ourselves, not seeking conquest. The Makari seemed confused. The directive said humans would show no mercy, that your history was full of violence against your own kind. Our history does have much violence, Do-hyun acknowledged. But we learn from our mistakes. We've seen where hate and fear lead. We choose a different path now. One by one, more species abandoned the fight against Earth. Within a month, only the Viridians and 2 allied races continued the war. Their leadership, mostly directive members, knew they would face justice if captured. In a secured bunker deep beneath the surface of Viridian Prime, Chief Scientist Maris met with the remaining directive leaders. Earth forces have taken control of 12 major systems, she reported bitterly. Most of the conclave has betrayed us. They don't understand the threat, replied Director Kors, the head of the directive. Humans will eventually dominate everything. Our simulations proved it. Our conventional forces are failing, said Military Commander Vex. We must use the Omega weapon. The others fell silent. The Omega weapon was their last resort, a device capable of creating an artificial supernova. It could destroy Earth's sun, eliminating the entire solar system. That would kill billions of innocents on Earth, said one leader quietly. Better their species than ours, Maris replied coldly. The weapon is ready at the Helios station. We can launch within days. Do it, ordered Kors, and may our descendants forgive us. Earth intelligence intercepted the transmission about the Omega weapon. Within hours, the information reached the Vengeance. A star killer, Jiwoo said in horror as she briefed her officers. They're really willing to destroy our entire system. The weapon is based at Helios Station, said Ha-un, pointing to the star chart. It's their most secure facility in orbit around a red dwarf star. Multiple defense rings, heavy shields. A direct assault would be difficult, Sumin added. We'd lose many ships. Do-hyun, who had been quiet during the briefing, spoke up. What about a small team? I still have knowledge of conclave protocols from my time as ambassador. We might be able to infiltrate the station. That's extremely risky, Jiwoo said, looking concerned. Less risky than letting them destroy our sun, Do-hyun replied simply. After much debate, the plan was approved. Do-hyun would lead a small strike team to infiltrate Helios Station. Jiwoo insisted on joining the mission, along with engineer Junho, whose technical skills would be crucial for disabling the weapon. The fleet will create a diversion, Sumin explained, drawing their defenses away from the station's south docking port. That's your entry point. The team trained for 3 days, studying the station layouts obtained from conclave allies who had turned against the directive. Their insertion ship was disguised as a supply vessel, similar to how they had rescued Do-hyun. On the day of the mission, Do-hyun found Jiwoo alone in the shuttle bay, checking her equipment. You don't have to come, he told her. You've already done enough getting me out. Jiwoo looked up at him. I didn't cross the galaxy to find you just to let you go on a suicide mission alone. It might really be suicide this time, Do-hyun said quietly. Then we go together. She handed him a weapon. Besides, someone has to make sure you don't try to negotiate with people who want to kill our entire species. Do-hyun smiled for the first time in what felt like forever. Fair point. The small team boarded their disguised shuttle. As they prepared for launch, a message came from Earth Command. Strike team, be advised, said the communications officer. New intelligence suggests Director Kors himself is on Helios Station overseeing the weapon launch. He's the head of the entire evolutionary directive. Understood, replied Do-hyun. Any change to our orders? There was a pause before the answer came. Primary objective remains disabling the weapon. But if possible, Director Kors should be brought to justice. The shuttle launched, heading toward Helios Station while the main fleet began its diversion attack. Do-hyun looked at the small team. Jiwoo, Junho, and 4 Special Forces soldiers. 7 humans against a station of hundreds. But as he had learned during his captivity, humans had one advantage the conclave feared most. They adapted. They overcame. They survived. And now the fate of Earth depended on that very quality. As the shuttle approached the station, alarms began to sound. They had been detected. So much for the stealth approach, Jiwoo muttered, activating the shuttle's defense systems. New plan? Same as the old plan, Do-hyun replied calmly. Just louder. 3 months after the destruction of Helios Station, representatives from all conclave species gathered on a neutral space station orbiting a dwarf star. The station was called New Dawn, built specially for these historic peace talks. Do-hyun Kim stood by the large viewport, looking at the assembled ships outside. Earth vessels floated alongside conclave ships that until recently had been enemies. It was a strange sight and a hopeful one. "Nervous?" asked Jiwoo, joining him at the window. She wore a formal Earth diplomatic uniform now, having been promoted to commander after the battle at Helios Station. "A little," Do-hyun admitted. "It's not every day you try to rebuild peace after a war." "You've done the impossible before," she reminded him with a small smile. "Being held captive, escaping, helping destroy a superweapon. This should be easy by comparison." Do-hyun laughed softly. "Somehow talking seems harder than fighting right now." The door to the observation room opened and a group of Earth officials entered, led by Admiral Santos from the Defense Council. With them came representatives from the conclave species that had allied with Earth during the conflict. "It's time," Admiral Santos said. "They're ready in the assembly hall." Do-hyun took a deep breath and nodded. As Earth's official galactic ambassador, a position he had been formally appointed to after his rescue, he would lead these negotiations. The assembly hall was massive, with seats arranged in a circle so no species could claim precedence over others. Earth delegates sat in one section, with friendly conclave species nearby. Across the circle, the Viridians and their few remaining allies sat stiffly, their defeat still fresh. In the center of the hall stood a simple raised platform with a podium. Do-hyun walked to it, feeling the eyes of hundreds of aliens upon him. "Representatives of Earth and the conclave," he began, his voice carrying through the translation systems to each delegate in their native language. "We gather today to end a conflict none of us truly wanted, and to build something better from its ashes." He looked around the room, meeting alien gazes without flinching. The evolutionary directive believed humanity would eventually dominate the galaxy through our adaptability. They saw us as a threat to be eliminated before we could become one, and in response to their attempted genocide, Earth did indeed demonstrate tremendous power. Murmurs spread through the hall. Do-hyun continued. "But we also showed restraint. We used non-lethal weapons where possible. We spared civilian targets. We offered peace to any who wanted it. Because the directive was wrong about humanity in one crucial way. We don't seek domination. We seek connection." He gestured to the Talarian delegation. "When we learned that most conclave species knew nothing of the planned genocide, we immediately opened diplomatic channels. When we discovered the weakness in Viridian biology, we created non-lethal weapons instead of lethal ones. When Helios Station was destroying itself, we helped evacuate everyone, including our former captors." Do-hyun turned to face the Viridian section directly. "These are not the actions of a species bent on conquest. They are the actions of a species that has learned, through its own painful history, that peace must be built on mutual respect, not fear." Director Kors, now a prisoner awaiting trial for crimes against sentient beings, sat with the Viridian delegation under guard. His face showed no emotion, but he watched Do-hyun intently. "Today," Do-hyun continued, "we have a choice. We can continue fighting, a war that will damage all our worlds and benefit none, or we can forge a new beginning, a covenant between species based not on dominance but on cooperation, not on fear of differences, but on the strength that diversity brings." He pulled a small device from his pocket, the neural implant he had used to send the distress signal during his captivity. "This small device saved my life. A simple piece of technology that allowed one voice to reach across the stars. Let it remind us that communication, not conflict, should be our first and best tool." Do-hyun set the device on the podium. "Earth proposes the following. The evolutionary directive will be dissolved. Any remaining superweapons will be dismantled under joint supervision. Those directly responsible for planning genocide will face justice." There were nods of agreement from most delegates. These terms had been expected after Earth's decisive victory. "But," Do-hyun continued, "in exchange, Earth will share its adaptive technologies. We will establish research partnerships to help species whose homeworlds face environmental challenges. We will commit resources to helping all sentient beings thrive, not just humans." This caused surprise. Many delegates leaned forward, their alien features showing interest or confusion. The directive feared humanity would outcompete other species because of our adaptability, Do-hyun explained. "We propose to make that adaptability a shared strength instead. Why should any species face extinction due to changing conditions When together we might find solutions. A Makari delegate raised a tentacle. You would share your technology with former enemies? Yes, Do-hyun said simply. Because we understand the fear that drove the directive's actions. Many Earth species have gone extinct because they couldn't adapt to changes. We don't want that for any sentient species. For the next several hours, delegates debated the proposals. Some voiced skepticism, others enthusiasm. Throughout it all, Do-hyun answered questions with patience and honesty. Ji-woo and the Earth team provided data and specific commitments to back up the general principles. Finally, as the station's artificial day cycle began to dim toward evening, the time for decision arrived. The proposal before us, announced the neutral Phelan moderator, is the Treaty of New Beginnings. It dissolves the old conclave structure, creates a new galactic covenant with equal representation for all species including Earth, establishes joint research initiatives for adaptation technologies, and sets guidelines for mutual defense and peaceful resolution of conflicts. The moderator's large compound eyes swept the room. Each delegation will now register their vote. One by one, the species voted. The Talarians, yes. The Makari, yes. The Phelan, yes. Species after species agreed to the new treaty. When it came to the Viridian turn, there was tension in the room. They had been the driving force behind the directive. Now their new leadership, appointed after the old regime's fall, faced a difficult choice. The Viridian Prime Speaker rose. We bear the greatest shame in this conflict, she said, her voice translated for all. Our leaders planned genocide based on fear. When discovered, they waged war rather than seek understanding. She looked directly at Do-hyun. The humans would be justified in demanding our complete submission or even our punishment as a species. The hall was completely silent. Instead, she continued, they offer partnership. They offer to share the very adaptability we feared. In the face of such generosity, how can we refuse? She bowed deeply in the Viridian manner. The Viridian people vote yes. Relief swept through the hall. Every species had agreed. The treaty would become reality. As the formal signing began, Director Kors asked permission to approach Do-hyun. Under guard, he was allowed to speak briefly with the human ambassador. I still believe our models were correct in one sense, Kors said quietly. Humanity will change the galaxy forever, but perhaps not in the way we feared. Change doesn't have to be threatening, Do-hyun replied. It can be an opportunity. Kors made the Viridian gesture of reluctant agreement. Your species adapted even to our attempt to eliminate you. You turned enemies into allies. You offered hope instead of revenge. He shook his head slightly. Truly, you are unlike any species we have encountered. We're not special, Kors. We're just shaped by our history as you are by yours. The difference is we've seen the results of letting fear drive our actions, and we've learned to choose a different path. The signing ceremony continued late into the station's night. When all was done, Do-hyun addressed the assembly one final time. They held me captive, he said, his voice tired but strong. And Earth burned across the galaxy for me. But from those flames, we've forged something stronger than any single species could achieve alone. Our differences are not threats but opportunities. Our adaptability is not a weapon but a gift we can share. The stars have room for all of us. As the delegates dispersed to their quarters, Do-hyun remained in the now empty hall with Ji-woo. Do you think it will work? She asked, looking at the signed treaty. It has to, he replied. The alternative is too terrible to contemplate. Ji-woo touched his arm gently. You know, when we were searching for you, I never imagined it would end like this, with humanity taking its place among the stars. Is that what we're doing? Do-hyun asked with a small smile. Taking our place? No, she corrected herself. Not taking, earning. There's a difference. Do-hyun looked out the viewport at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, Earth continued its orbit around its sun. A sun that would have been destroyed if events had unfolded differently. Somewhere out there, countless alien worlds spun around their own stars, home to beings who until recently had never heard of humans. Now they had. Now everything had changed. 1 year later, Do-hyun stood on the observation deck of the Galactic Covenant's new headquarters, a massive space station at the intersection of major travel routes. Beside him stood representatives from 3 conclave species, all watching the approaching ship with excitement. The shuttle crashed through the outer defenses of Helios Station, trailing smoke as it skidded into the docking bay. Alarms blared as the team rushed out, weapons ready. We have maybe 20 minutes before they send enough forces to overwhelm us, Jiwoo said, checking her tactical display. The fleet is keeping most of their ships busy, but they'll figure out what we're doing soon. Do-hyun led them through the corridors, remembering the station layouts they had studied. The main control center for the weapon should be 3 levels up, in the central section. They encountered resistance almost immediately. Viridian security forces fired energy weapons from behind barricades. The Earth team took cover, returning fire. We don't have time for a prolonged fight, Do-hyun said as energy bolts sizzled past. He pulled a small device from his pack, one of the sonic disruptors developed based on Taeho's research. Cover your ears. The humans clamped sound-blocking devices over their ears as Do-hyun activated the disruptor. The Viridian guards collapsed instantly, their nervous systems overloaded by the specific frequency. They'll recover in about 30 minutes, Junho said as they stepped over the unconscious aliens. No permanent damage. They fought their way through 2 more security checkpoints using the same tactic. But as they approached the central lift that would take them to the weapon control center, they encountered new resistance, Kral guards, whose rock-like skin made them immune to the sonic weapons. Switch to standard weapons, Jiwoo ordered. Aim for the joint areas. The firefight was intense but brief. Earth Special Forces soldiers were well trained, and the element of surprise was still on their side. Within minutes, they secured the lift. Junho, can you override the security lockdowns? Do-hyun asked as they entered the lift. The engineer connected a device to the lift's control panel. Already on it. They've got good systems, but I'm better. His fingers flew over the interface. Got it, we have access to the central level. The lift shot upward. Do-hyun checked his weapon and looked at the team. Remember, our primary goal is to disable that weapon. Everything else is secondary. The lift doors opened to reveal the massive control center of Helios Station. Dozens of workstations filled the room, with a large central platform where senior officers directed operations. On the huge view screens, they could see the space battle raging outside as Earth's fleet engaged the station's defensive ships. Their entrance did not go unnoticed. Alarms sounded and security personnel reached for weapons. Sonic disruptors, Jiwoo shouted. The team activated their devices and most of the Viridian staff collapsed. The few non-Viridians were quickly subdued by the Special Forces team. Junho rushed to the main control console. I need a few minutes to locate the weapon systems and shut them down, he said, his fingers already working on the alien interface. You've got 2 minutes, Jiwoo replied, taking up a defensive position. That's how long before reinforcements arrive. Do-hyun scanned the room looking for Director Kors or other directive leadership. A movement caught his eye. A door closing at the far side of the control center. Someone's escaping, he said to Jiwoo. Could be Kors, she nodded. Go. We'll hold here and disable the weapon. Do-hyun followed through the door, finding himself in a long corridor that led deeper into the station. At the end, he could see a group of Viridians hurrying away. One was dressed in the distinctive robes of directive leadership. Drawing his weapon, Do-hyun pursued them. The corridor opened into a smaller, private control room, obviously the leadership's secure facility. Director Kors stood there with Chief Scientist Maris and 2 guards. You, Maris hissed when she saw Do-hyun. The human specimen that caused all this. It's over, Maris, Do-hyun said, his weapon trained on them. The weapon will be disabled. Most of the Conclave has already abandoned your cause. Director Kors stepped forward, taller than most Viridians, with deep blue skin and elaborate cranial ridges that signified great age. He carried himself with cold authority. It is far from over, human, Kors said. This station is only one of our facilities. The directive has prepared for centuries for threats like your species. Why? Do-hyun asked, genuinely wanting to understand. What makes humans so threatening that you would commit genocide? Your adaptability, Maris answered. Your kind evolves and changes faster than any species we've encountered. Where others specialize, you generalize. Where others stabilize, you keep changing. Our predictive models show that within 200 years, humans would dominate the galaxy, perhaps unintentionally, but inevitably. So you decided to kill us all before giving us a chance to prove those models wrong? Kors made a gesture that might have been a Viridian shrug. The needs of the many established species outweigh the right of one new species to exist. The galaxy has a delicate balance that humanity would disrupt. And yet look what happened, Do-hyun said. You tried to eliminate us secretly and now half the conclave has turned against you. You created exactly the scenario you feared. Before Kors could respond, the room shook with a massive impact. The battle outside was intensifying. Surrender now, Do-hyun said, and you'll be treated fairly. Continue fighting and Earth won't show the same restraint we've demonstrated so far. Kors looked at him with alien eyes that showed no emotion Do-hyun could read. You speak of restraint, yet your forces have devastated our fleets. We've used non-lethal weapons where possible. We've spared civilian targets. We've offered peace to everyone who wasn't directly involved in planning genocide. That is restraint. A signal beeped on Do-hyun's communicator. Ji-woo's voice came through. Weapon systems located. Junho is working on disabling them now. Status? I've found Kors and Maris, Do-hyun replied, attempting to secure them. Maris suddenly lunged toward a control panel. Do-hyun fired, hitting her arm. She fell back with a cry of pain. She was trying to activate a secondary launch system, said one of the guards unexpectedly. He stepped away from Kors. Director, this has gone too far. The human speaks truth. We have become what we claim to fear. Kors looked at the guard with rage. Traitor. The directive's purpose is to protect life, the guard finished. Not to exterminate species out of fear of what they might become. He turned to Do-hyun. Many of us were told humans were already planning to attack the conclave. We were deceived. Do-hyun's communicator beeped again. Do-hyun! Ji-woo's voice was urgent. Junho says there's a problem. The weapon has an automatic failsafe. If we try to disable it from here, it will detonate inside the station. Can he bypass it? Do-hyun asked, keeping his weapon trained on Kors and Maris. Not remotely. Someone has to go to the weapon itself and manually disable the failsafe before we can shut it down. Do-hyun looked at the guard who had spoken up. Where is the weapon housed? Level 7, Section C, the guard replied. But it's heavily shielded. You would need high-level access. Do-hyun turned to Kors. You're coming with me. You're going to help disable that weapon. I will do no such thing, Kors replied coldly. The station rocked with another impact. Warning lights flashed on the control panels. Our fleet has broken through the outer defenses, Ji-woo reported. They're targeting the station's power core. We have maybe 15 minutes before this whole place comes apart. Director, the guard said to Kors, if that weapon detonates inside the station because of the failsafe, it could trigger a reaction that would destroy the star. We would all die, along with the 3 inhabited worlds in this system. Kors looked at the displays showing the battle outside. Earth ships were systematically disabling the station's defenses. It was clear they would soon have full control. Very well, he said finally. I will assist in disabling the failsafe. Not for you, human, but for the innocent lives in this system. Do-hyun secured Maris with restraints, leaving her with the cooperative guard. Then he and Kors headed for the weapon chamber, communicating their plan to Ji-woo. As they made their way through the station, Do-hyun saw conclave personnel evacuating, heading for escape pods. Many surrendered instantly upon seeing a human, having heard how the battles elsewhere had gone. Your species fights with unexpected skill, Kors commented as they walked. Another trait our models failed to fully account for. We had many wars among ourselves, Do-hyun replied. It gave us much practice, unfortunately. And yet you show restraint now. Why? Because we learned from those wars. Violence only creates more violence. If we want peace, we have to demonstrate that we deserve it. They reached the heavily shielded door to the weapon chamber. Kors placed his hand on the scanner, and the massive door slid open. Inside was a device unlike anything Do-hyun had seen before. A sphere of swirling energy contained within multiple fields of force pulsed with power. Around it, control stations monitored the containment fields, the Omega weapon, Kors explained. It creates an artificial quantum singularity that, when delivered to a star, causes it to collapse and then explode, a manufactured supernova. How do we disable the failsafe? Do-hyun asked, trying not to show his horror at such a weapon. Kors moved to the main control panel. The failsafe is here. It requires 2 authorized users to disable it. He looked at Do-hyun. I cannot do it alone. What do you need me to do? Place your hand here while I enter the override sequence.